Hello everyone, welcome back to Touch the Fire Twice. I'm Joshua, and I'm here today to do an in-depth sniff and comparison review of the newly launched fragrance from Nest New York, the Lime Zest and Matcha candle, part of their wellness collection. But before we dig into that, if you're new to Touch the Fire Twice, welcome. My mission here is to share my love and passion for fine home fragrance as an enthusiast, an educator, a reviewer, to inspire you to increase your own fragrance knowledge and understanding, ultimately enhancing the scent memories that you create. If you want to learn more about what I do, why I do it, how I do it, you can check out my website at TouchTheFireTwice.com. But for now, let's dig into this in-depth sniff and comparison review. As with all of my in-depth sniff and comparison reviews, what we'll do is we'll talk through this candle, the collection it's part of, any sort of marketing branding around it. We'll read through the scent story that the brand has shared, the perfumers have shared, and what they're trying to evoke, the mood, the moment, the memory, the space, the place, the time that they want you to feel with this fragrance. Then I'll get my nose on it and give my own interpretation, sort of my own scent story of what I get from it. Where does it take me? What does it make me feel? And what do I sniff in it? And finally, because this is a fine home fragrance, we dig deeper into the notes, really from an educational aspect to understand, when it comes to the notes in here, which we'll get into in a second, what's their origin? What are they supposed to evoke? How are they used in perfumery, in fine home fragrance? And like I've done in the past, I actually have a couple of raw products and oils here to do a true in-depth sniff comparison against the candle, the notes that are listed in here compared to the actual raw product itself. I find that always interesting. And then the final step in the process is the comparison review to other fragrances that you may know from other brands that are newer or older, some fragrances still available that maybe you've gotten your nose on before and you really love or you dislike, or at least it gives you a sense of what it's like so that I can say, oh, it's really similar to this one, or the one note in this candle matches the note that's in here, but it's a little bit different than this other one. So it's kind of the closest thing we can try to get to, kind of building the fragrance in your mind's eye or your mind's nose through watching this video. So, the Nest Wellness Collection. I'm a big fan of Nest in general. As you've seen, my reviews here, you can check out my playlist of past Nest reviews that I've done. And I'm particularly a big fan of their wellness collection for a couple of reasons. One, I think the cohesion of the collection is really nice. The branding, the marketing, the art direction is pleasing. Most importantly, the fragrances, of which they now have 4, this is the 4th launch in that collection, are really intentional and pretty, and as they want you to feel, aromatherapeutic, whether they are calming or invigorating or uplifting, whatever it might be. And they're the types of fragrances that I sometimes lean to, sort of that, whether it's aromatherapeutic or botanical or sometimes spa-like fragrances. So the current releases are the Driftwood and Chamomile, which I do own and will be reviewing at some point in the near future, as well as Himalayan Salt and Rose Water, and then finally the Wild Mint and Eucalyptus, which I did a review on about a year ago at this point, and their newest launch, Lime Zest and Matcha. And like many of their fragrances, this comes in multiple forms. So this is the 21.2 ounce 3-wick candle. It also comes in their 8.1 ounce classic single wick candle, a 2 ounce votive, and then a multitude of diffusers. So they've got their misting oil diffuser, they have the Pura plugins, as well as the more traditional reed diffusers. And so unboxing this, when it comes to the 3 wicks, they're of course packed in a heavy cardboard box to really keep them secure, with their dust cover on here. You see I've burned this a few times, and then a healthy foam there to keep it from shaking around. And as you can see with the vessel, this is their traditional etched glass pinstripe pattern. Take off the dust cover here. You can see that is 3 wicks. I have trimmed these. I burned this 2 or 3 times so far. I'll get into the performance in a little bit, but you can see right from the jump here, quite a clean burn on this candle. And getting into the scent story that they share. Boost your energy and brighten your mood with this wellness collection fragrance featuring invigorating notes of lime zest, green tea, clary sage, and bergamot, a vibrant blend that leaves you feeling refreshed and motivated. So let's get my nose on it, see what I think. This candle is bright, not just refreshing, but truly renewing. I first burned this on New Year's Day, and for me, it was a sunny, warm winter day, and it really was just truly renewing. It was like the holidays were over, start of a new year. Sometimes folks will think, oh, if this is, something zesty and juicy, is that more of a spring or summer scent? For me, a lot of the wellness collection truly can be year-round, though I'm often a seasonal burner. It can be year-round because they do feel, again, aromatherapeutic. And so it is bright, tangy, a tart lime, zippy and fresh, surprisingly sweet, more than I expected. That bergamot is airy and sparkling, almost to the point of being on the edge of effervescent or tingling or cooling. The clary sage is a subdued herbal, almost leaning more floral, kind of sweet and similar almost to a soft lavender. A bit of a fresh muskiness, but still unmistakably herbaceous, yet not astringent or overly green. And then finally, That matcha adds a green freshness, but a mellow, savory, fresh grassiness. That matcha brings a vegetal umami depth, but countered by the bright citrus sweet lime zest and floral sweet clary sage. I wouldn't mind more of the earthy matcha, but at the same time, I do love this fragrance as it is. Abundantly fresh, like taking a deep, renewing breath. It has the fresh air quality you get sometimes from eucalyptus or more camphoraceous notes without being intensely medicinal, minty, or astringent. The lime and bergamot vibrancy really is countered by the floral-like sweetness of the clary sage, all sitting on the base of that mellow, sweet, and savory green matcha. It's invigorating, refreshing, renewing. It is sweet, it is succulent, it is sort of juicy, more than I would have expected, but it has a beautiful depth. And as you can see, this is a post-burn review. When it comes to performance, I've never had issues with the Nest 3-wick candles fully pulling out. Might take a little bit of time, but they get a full, even pull, a really clean, measured, consistent burn, nothing overly wild and sooty and crazy, just a really balanced burn. Great throw on this. This was on my main level and literally could smell it upstairs. This really did travel, great strength throw projection, but balanced in the sense that though it was strong and projecting throughout my home, it wasn't overwhelming. It wasn't something that kind of choked you out or was just too much. It was always a welcome whiff when this fragrance passed you by. Now let's dig into these notes. So first up, lime zest. It's important to note the zest. So we're going really just for the essential oils of the skin, not just that lime juice that would come across with a slightly different fragrance profile. Lime zest is going to be zingy, bright, and energizing, juicy, a tart citrus. Lime brings a vibrant freshness and sparkle to a fragrance, lively, green, tonic, and uplifting. It is admittedly very similar to lemon, though it has a more intense, fresher, and sharper scent than a lemon, while at the same time usually coming off juicier. It's that sharp, airy, awakening citrus. Matcha tea. So matcha tea, which I have right here as we're talking about it, so don't even need the little image I typically use. So this is matcha tea, stone ground green tea leaves. High quality matcha will have an aromatic, fresh, mellow, sweet, grassy smell, which comes from high amounts of the amino acid L-theanine. It's fresh, slightly sweet, vegetal, a bit of a bitter astringency, but yet a savory umami scent and flavor. The highest quality matcha green teas are going to smell abundantly fresh. Sometimes people think that they're a bit hay-like or almost a seaweed aspect due to the high levels of chlorophyll, but that's usually going to be a slightly lower quality matcha if it has that hay or seaweed fragrance to it. And if you're not familiar with matcha, it's tea leaves that have literally been stone ground, and so you whisk those into the water and you actually ingest the whole leaves, which have been stone ground, versus typically brewing tea leaves, removing them and discarding them. You truly ingest the entire tea leaf here. And matcha is super high in antioxidants and polyphenols, many health benefits. And a quick lesson in green teas. So your traditional sencha, loose leaf tea, and your matcha stone ground tea are derived from the same plant species, Camellia sinensis, but the end texture, shape, consistency completely different. So that sencha is that rolled loose leaf tea, whereas the matcha is stone ground. The matcha is grown in almost complete darkness, which helps increase the chlorophyll and the amino acid that gives it that umami flavor. And it also results in a less tannic or bitter tea because the sunlight increases the tannin levels in tea. So while it has that traditional green tea flavor, it is less tannic, more sweet, more supple, that kind of vegetal umami richness to it from the high levels of chlorophyll, as you can see here how intensely green it is. And I love matcha, so I was really happy to see it in the candle. And doing a bit of a side-by-side sniff here, I would like there to be a bit more matcha actually in the candle itself, with matcha being in the name, not just one of the sub notes. I would have liked there to be a bit more of that warm, round, soft, velvety, umami, vegetal, green, grassy fragrance that you get from the matcha. But it is absolutely still there, especially when I compare this to a few of the other tea candles. There are distinct similarities there. So I have no doubt that the green tea is here. I'm just such a lover of it. I wouldn't have minded them turning it up and it being a little bit, maybe it would have made it a little bit more funky and edgy and different, but it is unmistakably part of this candle. And then let's dig into Clary Sage. Clary Sage, which I actually have the oil here to do a sniff comparison on, is different than the traditional, autumnal garden sage that you may be familiar with. So there are actually 900 bush varieties of sage across the world, from white, purple, golden, bergamot, common garden, and today the clary sage. So the common sage, known as Salvia officinalis, is an evergreen shrub in the mint family, native to the Mediterranean region, and characteristically those leaves are covered in those sort of hairy trichomes that make it just feel velvety. Although all sage does smell herbaceous, the scent of your common garden sage is robust and sharp, while clary sage, I feel, is quite different. It's softer, sweeter, warmer, kind of a musk-like angle to it, with a bit of a floral lavender, earthy tea, sweet anise, and even nuttiness base to it. So I actually have here the oil, but I put it on a card to sniff on it. And if you'd put this in front of someone's nose, I almost think that a lot of folks would assume that this is a super, super soft lavender. But it's kind of the best of both worlds, of the softness of lavender and the earthy sweetness and a bit of green from your sage, but that kind of velvety herbalness. It's tranquil and calming, and it's actually thought to have more medicinal properties than other sages. Comparing the side by side of clary sage to the candle, definitely pick that out in here. So it wouldn't have surprised me if they had put an herb in here and a lavender. Not in here, but it's almost as if it does, because it's kind of the best of both worlds of the sage and lavender. And I certainly can pick that out here. And there is almost a bit of a tea fragrance, like a fresh tea fragrance to the clary sage, which also helps support, I think, the matcha tea scent in here. This is the first time I have truly, you can see the oil blotted on there, that I've truly dug into learning about clary sage, though I've smelled it in other fragrances, but I really am appreciating it for what it is and how different it is than your garden sage, and even how different it is than your lavender, though again, it's surprising how similar it is in the lavender profile. And then finally, one of the, the granddaddies of citruses in fine fragrance, and that is bergamot. So bergamot is crisp and slightly refreshing. They use just the oil and the peels for it, not the juice, not the insides. Typically grown in Calabria, Italy. It has that lime zestiness to it, spicy, sparkling, fresh, sunny, airy, and uplifting. It can have a spicy herbaceousness. They say even almost a soft sweetness like a clary sage. That green spiciness of your basil, crossed with kind of the puckering bitterness of lime. And they say the juice, if you were to eat it, is less sour than a lemon, but more bitter than a grapefruit, and not as sweet as an orange. So not particularly appetizing as far as ingesting the actual juice itself, but the oils just bring that beautiful, bright, uplifting, fresh, airy note to fragrances. And so all told, I do think it's a beautiful blend. I'd love to know, a fine home fragrance is gonna have more than 4 notes in it. I would love if even on the website, they were to publish what the additional notes are to really get your nose and dig into it. Because there's a lot going on here. There could be a little bit of some sort of fruit in here, maybe just a tiny bit of maybe a pear, or even some additional citrus like a yuzu. I wouldn't be shocked if there were another herb or a soft floral in the background, all in support of the primary notes that we get here with the lime zest, matcha, clary sage, and bergamot. Truly love it. Now let's do what is a lot of fun for me, which is the comparison review. So for those who stuck around, thank you. The comparison review, got 5 here to go through. First up, I'm going to do, these are kind of together because these two candles are quite similar. This is, Laura Slacken's husband, Harry Slacken of Slacken & Co. This is an oldie green tea and white pear, which was actually introduced before the Bath & Body Works partnership. It was, I believe, a classic Slacken & Co. scent sold at Bergdorf Goodman and all of the higher end department stores and luxury boutiques where Slacken & Co. was launched before the partnership with Bath & Body Works, White Barn Candle Company, L Brands. And so I actually found the description, because this is back when there were not descriptions on the bottom of the candles. The description of this surprisingly still exists on the Bergdorf Goodman website, though it has not been sold there for, 10, 15 years. Happy it's there. And it says, Asian pear, fresh yuzu, and green tea mixed with watery florals floating over oak, patchouli, and musk. This is one of my all-time favorite Slacken & Co. scents. It's so airy and beautiful and sweet. And there's some similarities across these candles. They both have citrus. They both have a form of green tea in there. The green tea and white pear is a bit drier. Perhaps that musk or the oak. This is more citrus, much more citrus, more bright, fresh, zesty. But their base of the green tea, that not quite astringent, kind of green, kind of vegetal, savory depth offered by the tea is very much across both of these. And so they could be citrus scents in that way. And I'm so happy because this, again, is one of my all-time scents and it has not been available since, I don't know, maybe 2009 or 10. Similarly to that, Apotheke Earl Grey Bitters, which you can watch a review on that here, is also very, very similar to Slack & Co.'s Green Tea and White Pear. Notes on this one are Earl Grey tea leaves, lemon zest, bergamot, and peony. In the review of the Apotheke, I actually compared it to the Slack & Co. Green Tea and White Pear, but comparing the Apotheke to the Nest continues to be brighter, fresher, greener in both visual and scent, more zesty, much more citrus. The Apotheke does have that lemon zest, does have the tea leaves, and Earl Grey tea leaves are fragranced with bergamot, so you've got bergamot with tea leaves. But there's more of a powdery freshness. Could be coming from the peony, the floral in there, not really sure. It does share about 2.5 or 3 notes, very, very similar. Lemon versus lime, Earl Grey tea leaves versus your matcha. They're both good. I'd say the Apotheke is more similar to some of that musky powderiness that the Slack & Co. Green Tea White Pear has, but this one continues to be fresher, more authentically airy, uplifting, and botanical, more straightforward in that sense. I love them all. Right now my nose is leaning toward this one, more so than the Apotheke, though it is a great scent. It almost has more of like Apotheke feels almost like it has more of like a eucalyptus powderiness to it, which this does not have any eucalyptus to my nose. Then we've got 3 more here. So let's do a straightforward matcha. So this is Emmy Essentials, great small brand fragrance company, Emmy Essentials. You can check out my brand introduction and in-depth sniff review of a collection of 10 of their core candles that I did last summer. And for matcha, it just says straightforward matcha, honey, and cream. Oh boy, ooh, that is a good candle. This compared to this is much greener, fresher, actually, than this. This is almost like a sweetened, like a matcha latte, where you definitely have some honey, some cream. I think I did say in the Emmy Essentials overview that I wanted to buy this in the full size. I have not yet, but I really should. It leans more matcha, of course, than this because it's primarily trying to evoke that traditional matcha tea fragrance, whereas matcha is one of a handful of notes in the Nest Lime Zest and Matcha candle. Not super similar. This doesn't have any of the citrus, any of that zest, does not have the bergamot, does not have that floral sage. More straightforward and seems more kind of edible, like a matcha latte. But that depth, that grassy, umami savoriness does match across the two. So a thumbs up that yes, we're like cross comparing here. Matcha is in both, as both brands claim. Then we'll go to 2 more, both old Slack & Co. candles, no longer available, of course. This is Slack & Co. Eucalyptus Citrus, which I think might have been a failed test scent in 2010, 2011 at Bath & Body Works. I love this candle so much. It is one of my all-time favorites when it comes to this fresh, bright, aromatherapeutic, botanical category that they both are in. And these might be the most similar to me. The Eucalyptus Citrus had sparkling orange, lemon, eucalyptus, and spearmint. So not a tea fragrance, has the addition of eucalyptus, which could sort of play off that clary sage, but certainly the zesty, airy citrus angle is similar. I will say though, granted, this candle's a bit old to be, doing a fresh comparison. I would have to burn it to get the truest expression of the fragrance. A bit more powder to this one. So that eucalyptus brings an airiness, but where the bergamot brings a sparkling, fresh airiness, I think eucalyptus brings a soft, powdery, astringent airiness. Both very good, but different. Though you get some citrus in this one, that lemon, maybe the orange, you get much more citrus, as I've said across most of these, in the Lime Zest and Matcha, appropriately so with Lime Zest being the name of the candle and 2 of the 4 notes being Lime Zest and Bergamot, which are those strong, airy, sparkling, bright, puckering citruses. This just feels very, almost like the more I sniff this and in comparison, in getting my nose on this with sort of additional knowledge from when I burned this 10 years ago, this feels like it has a bit of that kind of fresh cotton or laundry accords that are kind of picking up in popularity, I think, in the fragrance world. Certainly mass market like Bath & Body Works, a lot of laundry day, clean sheets, linen, all that sort of thing. And that eucalyptus citrus has a bit of that powderiness to it. The final one seems a bit silly, but accurate, is Slack & Co., also a failed test scent, oddly enough. Lime Ice. This was part of the Boardwalk collection, the original Boardwalk collection many years ago, Bath & Body Works, when there was cotton candy, salted caramel, lime ice, a beautiful toasted almond. Notes in this one, simply lime zest, orange, and mint leaves. This, to this day, I will say, is the most straightforward, authentic, icy lime, or lime ice fragrance I've ever smelled. And it smells like a popsicle. Like there's something that they did with this fragrance that is more of the lime juice probably than the zest, but still, unmistakably lime. With those like crunchy, like the sugary ice crystals that are on a popsicle that probably has been in the freezer, maybe just a little bit too long, where it starts to get a little sticky. With that mint, the orange, the lime, not much of the mint, primarily lime, just with a bit of a soft, sweet citrus. Sugar crystals certainly should be notes on this one. And comparing them, the reason I brought this out, obviously there's nothing botanical, herbal, floral, tea-like in the lime ice, but that lime, Slack & Co. back in the day and Nest today both really know how to do a great citrus. And that lime is quite similar across them, which just really speaks to the authenticity of both, I think. It's not that this is trying to be sort of, a lime ice candle, but true expressions of lime, which I love to see. I'm a big fan of citruses throughout the year, but especially as getting into the spring, warmer months. So that is the long-winded, in-depth sniff comparison review across. But the take-home on this, again, as I said, I highly recommend it if you want sort of that refreshing, botanical, uplifting, renewing, refreshing fragrance that has the depth of that grassy, sweet umami matcha. It has the really sparkling, bright airiness of your bergamot. It has the puckering, tangy, zingy, vibrant energy of the lime, and that herb meets floral of the clary sage, where there's the soft, powdery sweetness, a little bit of the muskiness, some of that green herbaceousness. I love it. I can't wait to burn through this one. I'm sure I'll be purchasing more throughout the season because it's just such a great open your windows, take a deep breath, and be mindful and move forward in life. Or if it's cold out and you can't open your windows, still do that with this candle. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this candle, any of the other candles from Nest, any questions, and what you'd like to see next. Until next time, take care.